Well, welcome everyone. Welcome to the Tour on Talent. What we're going to be talking about today is how we link what we do in HR and in training to the execution of the strategy of your company. And so this is really a key role that we all play. And so as we go through today's presentation, we're going to be covering a lot of information around what is talent management and what's different between talent management and what we've previously done. Then we're also going to get into how do organizations typically set strategy. After that, we'll go over a model for how we can link what we do to the execution of strategy within the company. So basically, we're going to spend the first part really defining what talent management is. And the reason that I do that is because I want to make sure that we're all sharing the same mental model around what talent management is. There's been a lot of definitions put forth in the research and in the marketplace. And for me, most of them have been rather academic. And I want to give you a more applied definition so that we're sharing the same ideas around what talent management is. After that, we'll go through how organizations set and cascade strategy throughout the organization. And I'll be showing some best practice models for how that's accomplished. It's not necessarily that this is the only way to do it, but this is kind of a typical way that it can be done. So another reason for doing this is also so that we're sharing the same mental model around what that is. After that, we're going to go through how do we link people to the execution of strategy, because that's really how we demonstrate our value. And then what are some other ways that we can demonstrate our value? Sound good? Now, this is going to require your participation. If I wanted to do this presentation at any time in my life, I could do it. But I'm doing it here for you now, so make this your own. Any questions that you have, don't worry about interrupting me. You won't get me off track. I might not know the answer, but I'll at least know that I have to look up the answer for you at a later time and send you the answer if I don't have it. So really make this your own event. Whatever questions you have in your mind, don't wait for the end. Notice questions and answers isn't on there, because I expect that to happen throughout. Also, if you have examples, best practice examples that you want to share, love to hear that. That'll really enrich the conversation as well. So let's get started. So as you look at this and you read this, why do training and HR professionals get fired? Why do we get laid off? Why do we get asked to leave organizations?
Outsource to something cheaper.
So in some cases, they outsource it for something cheaper. Why else?
Not adding value.
They don't view us as essential.
They don't view us as essential and
not perceived as adding enough value.
Not perceived as adding enough value. So now, if those are some of the reasons, because of outsourcing, because we're not perceived as being essential, which another way of saying that is that we're a cost center. We're perceived as being a cost center, not a value added to the organization. So why is that? Why does that happen? When you answer, if you could answer out loud.
Sometimes the results are intangible.
Sometimes the results are intangible.
We don't generate revenue for the company?
Right. We're not a direct source of revenue generation in most cases.
Or we don't do a good job of explaining our connection to the ability to generate revenue.
Ah, that's one of the key issues. If they recognized our value and saw us as essential,
we don't see our own value a lot of times.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And there'd be less of a likelihood of us being outsourced.
And sometimes I think we ourselves get caught up in trying to comply with the latest regulations that come out.
Yeah.
And we get so caught up in the process that we forget the larger picture, strategic side.
Avoiding cost is not the same thing as generating revenue. Through compliance, we avoid cost in terms of litigation, in terms of losing lawsuits for whatever reason. That, however, is only a reason to keep the tactical side of HR, not to keep the real value added, the strategic side of HR and training, what we do to really create value. So that's a really good point, Cindy, is that if we were seen more as not just helping them to avoid cost, but also being in partnership with everyone else in the organization to generate revenue, we would be more valued. We would be seen as essential. And I don't think this would happen nearly as much. Now, another question that I want to ask is, over the years, over especially the past 10 years or so, have you seen this change in our profession? So what changes have you seen? Have you seen that we're less valued or more valued? More valued. And why do you think that change has occurred?
Companies are realizing that it's the turnaround and losing employees and finding or replacing, it's costing them more money.
Yes.
You need someone to administer to make sure that when you have new employees come in, that they're aware of the policies and so forth. So I think HR has turned around to where a lot of companies are seeing that although we may not be one of the most profitable departments, we are necessary.
Right. Right. So that's one of the things that we've done to really generate value in the organization, is to help attract and retain and develop the talent within our organization. And through the different metrics that we track, such as turnover, we can see as a decrease in turnover has a direct impact on the bottom line because of both avoided costs and increased productivity and revenue. So those are some of the things. When we think about what's being said in the media now, even though there is a shift and we are seeming to be more valued, there's still some other things that are coming up in the headlines. And this is over the past few years that I've found these headlines. The sad thing is in preparing for this presentation, this was not difficult to find. These types of quotes were, basically I Googled why we hate HR. And that was actually an article, a Fast Company article. This was a quote from that article, the top center one. Anyone read that article? I know it caused a huge stir in the HR community when that article came out. I think it was October of 2007. And there were many, many presentations. It might have been sooner than that. But why are these things being said about HR, about what we do, about us as professionals in the organizations that we work in?
I think it's because HR historically hasn't spoken the language of the business very well.
And which one up there really says that?
Just about all of them.
Yeah. Yeah, they do. There's one that specifically points to business acumen.
Right.
That's the quote from the Fast Company article. But really, if we're seen as the scapegoat when companies aren't getting the results, it's because we're speaking HR talk, we're speaking training talk, we're speaking OD talk. We're not speaking the language of the business.
Well, it's not just that we're seen as lacking, as they say, business acumen, but the one knowledge at Wharton, that's particularly upsetting, but I know that's the perception, seen as obstructionist.
Yeah, we're in the business prevention business. Yeah. Yeah, we're seen as getting in the way. And that actually goes hand in hand with really kind of resting on the fact that we are in charge of compliance within our organizations. And if that's the only button that we have to push to demonstrate our value, then we're going to be really existing to create policies that prevent us from abusing or violating labor laws, which is only a really small portion of what we do, is the compliance piece. And that bureaucracy, and also kind of resting in our area of expertise and not learning more about the business, is what this one is really saying. So these are the types of things that are in the media. These are the types of things that contribute to us being the first to go during an economic situation like what we've had now. So how do we overcome some of these things? And these types of things are what we're going to be talking about the rest of this presentation, the rest of this session. One is to link what we do to specific business outcomes. How many organizations in their HR training and OD side do that now?